Portions of this show are recorded. Strap in and be prepared.
You just heard Baby J about 3 minutes give his entire A to Z on what was going on. I didn't interrupt you.
I don't even like I got to everything, honestly.
No, you didn't get to everything.
Interesting guests.
Kelly Graves, Mike Parker, Josh Pate, Melissa Lombardi, Yogi Roth, who said that Justin and I are smart.
Sharp opinions.
I can see Dan Lanning sitting in his office, rubbing his hands together and saying, yeah, bring it on. You're just giving me juice.
I think you could be the type of team that has guys that excel in certain things. You don't need somebody that's great at everything. You need to be able to put guys in position where they're going to succeed.
And some smiles.
Is this thing on?
Is this thing working? No, that's why you got to do this. You got to go.
Hello?
Hello? Testing, testing,
it's like the little
testing.
girl in Nemo where she's tapping on the glass.
Fishy! Fishy, wake up, Fishy!
It's Danny Havel.
We have to be more specific. We have a lot of pickle things going on,
know.
apparently.
Justin Grossweiner.
It's a Schwar bomb. That's a man right there hitting that ball.
Danny and Justin starts now on Fox Sports Eugene and Newport.
And welcome high atop the Delta Tryon, the Crystal Palace, the Bigfoot Beverages Studios in Eugene and Newport. This is Fox Sports Radio for a Turkey Eve. Gobble, gobble. The Danny and Justin radio program, the fastest 60 minutes in sports. We've got a jam-packed show for you today to get you ready for your turkey, your stuffing, your ham, your brisket, your, pick your protein. I don't care. If you're to do the Cornish game hen, I get it. I understand.
You're just obsessed with that.
Not obsessed. It's just it's a pigeon. It's a very small
Who hurt
bird
you with
that
the Cornish
can't-
game hens?
I don't know. I don't know. I'm Danny Havel. Right over there is my tag team partner, Justin Gross, and I would call him Baby J. You already heard him.
Yeah.
What a boy.
I jumped in. I usually don't do that. I usually
No,
let
you don't.
Do your
You
thing.
leave me alone.
I do. And this
That's
time
right.
I decided I couldn't take
You're
anymore.
defending the honor of the Cornish game
we
hen.
did do Cornish hens it was last year. We did Cornish game hens last year.
One of the last years that I had Thanksgiving with both my parents, my brother Chris did the Cornish game hens in Siletz before they sold the house there, and it was lovely. It was the first. Justin, it was the first time I had Cornish game hens for Thanksgiving. I am, if anything else, a traditionalist. All right, but
That's fair. I think you are.
I will change it up. Like Christmas time, I will do a prime rib. I won't necessarily do ham like traditionally. Thanksgiving is the turkey, Christmas is the ham, or a goose. Have you had goose?
I think I've had goose.
Sorry, Mims. Mims is like, what?
No cannibalism here, but yes, I think I've had goose before. It's been a long time though. I couldn't tell you what it's.
Have you had duck?
I have not had duck. Never had duck before.
Okay.
I'm definitely not indicating something differently with my mouthing.
The Danny and Justin radio program. You can follow us on Twitter and Blue
Never
Sky.
had duck.
Danny and Justin. Are you serious right now? Also,
I'll never admit to that.
Also, pod us wherever you pod, Danny and Justin. We have a jam-packed. We're literally going to just race through this show, which is awesome. We've got the mayor of Rip City, Travis Demers, in just a few moments. We're going to jump in and talk Blazers. Nice win, 2-1 road trip after a 1-4 road trip previously. They're back home. They take on San Antonio tonight. It's the NBA Cup. What is that? We're going to talk about that. We'll talk about the state of Donovan Clingan, the injury situation, and Travis will. I'm sure we'll probably talk about. I don't know. We'll probably talk about TV shows.
Probably talk about Cornish game hens,
and we might talk about Cornish game hens because apparently I'm I don't think I'm obsessed. But apparently I am. And we're also going to have first-time guests. I love when we get first-time guests that give us perspectives from the other side of the pond. And we have a Husky. Maybe a Husky. He is the voice of the Seattle Storm of the WNBA. He's been a longtime radio host up in the Seattle market, part of the Softy and Dick show, which they definitely need to change the name of that show. Is Dick Fain going to join us? 29 years he's been on the air up there in Seattle. He's going to give us his perspective of this Husky-Duck matchup, which is, I didn't realize this, 1900 was when these two teams first, 125 years, Baby J. These two teams have been battling on the gridiron.
That's a long time. I mean, it's got to be one of the older rivalries.
It is, but not so.
Not the oldest. I know there's. Like,
I mean, but they didn't play every single year.
Right.
I mean, that's when they started. They had years off because they kind of went in different paths. But we'll talk to Dick Fain about that. And we'll get his perspective. A lot to unpack still with Oregon, Washington. A lot of things on the table, and I think there's going to be fans that are going to be looking at Oregon game. And then they're going to be scoreboard watching the Ohio State-Michigan game. I guarantee the fan base, they already know now, the path for Oregon to get to the Big Ten championship game, if they want to go there, is Michigan needs to beat Ohio State. If Oregon takes care of Washington, that's it. That's the path. There's not a whole bunch of other stuff that needs to happen. That is the path if Oregon wants to go to the Big Ten championship and a rematch with Indiana. Which, do we want that? That's going to be Friday discussion. Yeah. That's going to be a lot of discussion on Friday.
Just real quick, do you know who Oregon would play if Ohio State loses to Michigan and then Indiana loses to Purdue?
No.
They play Michigan.
No, they wouldn't.
I think they would, yeah.
There's no way Indiana's losing to Purdue.
I know.
There's
no way.
There's absolutely zero.
I would agree with you. But I don't believe there is
chance.
A scenario where Oregon can play Ohio State. I think their options are either Michigan or Indiana.
Yeah, there isn't. There isn't. It's one or the other.
Yeah. Which is interesting.
We would love to see Oregon, Ohio State in the Big Ten championship game eventually. We'll get there.
Yeah, eventually, right?
Eventually we'll get there.
Seems like it's at some point.
Not now. Let's head on over to the Oregon Man Clinic's hotline at 541-343-5673 and welcome in our good friend, the mayor of Rip City. It's Travis Demers, back home, back in his soft, comfy chair, getting ready for tonight's matchup between Portland and San Antonio in the NBA Cup, looking to advance in the NBA Cup for the first time to get into the knockout rounds. Mayor, by the way, how's been the long trips? Have you been able to catch up on shows?
I have, but how do you know that I'm in my chair? Like, are you watching me or something? What's going on over here?
You don't know where the camera is. It's up there in the corner.
That is disturbing, but I'll keep that in mind. Maybe I'll wave to you sometime. Yeah, I have been able to catch up on some shows. I ended up finishing The Diplomat, which was a terrific show, and then they left you off on a cliffhanger at the end of Season 3.
Absolutely.
So I'm looking forward to Season 4 whenever that comes out.
Okay.
And then I watched Tulsa King. I was waiting for that show to finish Season 3 before I started it so I could watch the whole thing. And I finished that on the plane ride home. So now with a long flight to Toronto on Monday, I'm going to have some opportunities to dive into something new.
Absolutely. And I told you, The Bondsman, Kevin Bacon, do it. Well, only one season right now, but it is fantastic. All right. After a 2-1-3 game road trip, Trailblazers at 8-10 return home to host the Spurs, who are 11-5. Tip-off for the Blazers and the Spurs tonight right here in the Eugene market on Fox Sports. Tip-off scheduled for 7 p.m. NBA Cup Group C game. But Blazers are banged up. No Drew Holiday, no Scoot Henderson. Of course, Damian out for the season. Matisse Thybulle, a left thumb ligament tear. Blake Wesley, right foot fracture, are out. Spurs will not have Victor Wembanyama as Stephen Castle and Jordan McLaughlin. So a couple of teams banged up a little bit. So, Travis, how have the Blazers navigated the injury situation thus far?
Yeah, it's crazy because you mentioned all of that, and then Shaedon Sharpe has missed the last few games with a calf strain. He's questionable tonight, and it would be really nice to see him get back, especially for a game like this. But, you know, they're starting Sidi Sissoko basically at point guard, kind of at point guard. Mm-hmm. They don't have a point guard. They don't have a lot of guards right now, and that's part of the problem. And Sidi Sissoko is a two-way player who had never started a game before this stretch. But he's making plays, and they're not asking too much of him. Caleb Love coming off the bench, he's taken a lot of shots, but without him and what he did against the Warriors, they're not winning that game. What they're doing is, you know, they're putting the ball in the hands of their best players right now, their best scorers, and that's Jeremy Grant, that's Denny Avdia. You know, they're getting offensive rebounds. They've had to back off the press, and I don't know how much you guys have noticed that, but early in the year, obviously, they were pressing teams and forcing a lot of turnovers. They're not doing that right now, and they're not because the skill set of the players that they have is not quite the same as it was. And with less players, they can't rotate guys in and out. So you look at the turnover numbers and the things that made them successful early in the year, they're not doing that. So they've had to adjust. And the defense has been – it's been good. It's not what it was early in the year. Defensive guys are not playing, and they've had to make adjustments. But they're playing quality enough defense, but they're efficient. And they're making plays when it matters. You know, early on in the game against Milwaukee, their first 5 shots were threes, or their first 5 made shots were threes. They're not giving up. They're keeping the intensity. They're getting to the free throw line. All of these little things that teams that are undermanned and are less talented than their opponents have to do by just keeping that pressure on, not going away, and taking advantage when their opponent falls asleep for a couple of plays.
And when you don't have a point guard, it just feels like you're like a chicken running around with its head cut off sometimes.
No tip of the pencil. You don't have a sharp pencil.
You need your leader there. Mm-hmm. How fair is it to even evaluate this team right now without any of their guards? I mean, you go from having almost too many guards to not having almost any guards. And is it just kind of the thing right now? You just need to win these games and you kind of get to the evaluation process of like how this team is working after they get back?
Well, I think it depends on what you're trying to evaluate, right? If you're trying to evaluate this team as a whole, you can't because so many guys are out. And your point of not having a point guard, like there's nobody to initiate the offense in a standard way. So you're asking other players to do things that are outside of their skill set. And an example of something where that worked really well was Denny Avdia in the game against the Warriors. You know, he drives and he gets to the rim and he draws contact, right? It's one of the things that he's great at. But early in that game, he set a tone because he would drive and the defense would collapse and he would throw a lob to Donovan Clingan. And they had 3 of those in the first quarter, and he had a career-high 13 assists. So guys are having to do different things. But in this stretch, and this was something that Chad and I talked about on the Section 113 podcast this week, is, you know, between now and December 18th, there are 8 more games, right? And that includes that stretch of 2 games in 11 days during that, you know, NBA Cup window. So that's not a lot of games spread out over that time. When December 18th gets here, in theory, you hope that Shaedon Sharpe will be back on the floor. Maybe he's back tonight. Drew Holiday will have been reevaluated by then. Matisse Thybulle could potentially be back. Scoot Henderson will be nearing a return. The only players that will 100% be out, obviously Damian Lillard, like you mentioned, and Blake Wesley, who's recovering from foot surgery. So if you can get through these next few weeks and the next 8 games and keep your heads above water, you still have 50-plus games left in the season when a lot of those guys are back. And that will give them an opportunity as the schedule gets easier, because right now they've played the second most difficult schedule in the league, to really have an opportunity to string some wins together. So what I think you evaluate right now is the effort from the team, the adjustments that they're making, the things that they've had to do to kind of compensate for the injuries and different players being out, and the way that they're staying in games. And, you know, the games they've been blown out, there's only a couple of them. Mm-hmm. They got blown out by the Thunder. They got blown out by the Rockets, 2 excellent teams. Mm-hmm. And then a blowout loss at home to Phoenix, who is playing really good basketball right now. And that's it. You know, this team in years past, they would have lost those games by 40 or 50 instead of by 20 or 25. And I think while nobody wants to see a game like that, just the way those things are even happening in a better way.
Voice of the Blazers, Travis Demers, with us on the Danny and Justin radio program. And I know it's early. And by the way, the Thunder definitely weren't happy about that one loss that they had earlier in the season to the Blazers.
Thinking about that.
But
love it.
Just kind of looking at the standings right now, and even just you can kind of project some of these bottom teams. I mean, New Orleans isn't going to get any better. Utah, I don't think it's going to get much better. I mean, there's some teams out there that I think they're just I don't really see them getting much better. And then you kind of have the Blazers and the Timberwolves and the Warriors kind of sitting there kind of in a range. Like, even if the Blazers kind of have these issues and with the guards, like, is it kind of getting to the point with the West where we think about it as a super deep conference, but honestly, to me right now, it's looking a little bit more like top heavy in the 6 or 7, giving the Blazers an opportunity to kind of ease their way into that 7 through 10 range.
That's a fantastic point. Well done. Gold star for you on that. Because
attaboy.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to patronize you with that. I think it's something that a lot of people don't look at and just assume that, the West is great and the East is terrible. The East is actually more competitive right now, top to bottom, than the West is. And it's interesting because the teams at the bottom of the West, like you mentioned, they're bad basketball teams. And at the top of the West, Oklahoma City, Denver, Houston, even San Antonio right now, those are really good basketball teams. I think Minnesota's a little surprising that they're not playing as well as you would expect. But injuries have just, crushed some teams. The Clippers look very old. The Lakers have actually done a really good job of withstanding some of those injuries. But Golden State is also looking very, very old. That window of 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, there's no reason the Blazers can't compete there. And you have teams that are right around 500, only separated by a couple of games in that mix. So to your point, if they can get through this next stretch and go on a run when they have the 4th easiest schedule the rest of the season, I'm not saying that this team is going to go on a run and be a top 4 seed and win a title, but they can absolutely be within an earshot of being out of the play-in and being a top 6 team in the Western Conference because of how beat up and injured some of these other teams are, and the Blazers having a chance to take advantage of that. Fully healthy, are the Blazers a top 6 team in the West? I don't think so, but they're not fully healthy, and the rest of the league isn't fully healthy, and I think there is a chance there with that.
He's our mayor of Rip City. It's Travis Demers. You can join him on Twitter and also the IG at Travis Demers. He joins us on the Danny and Justin radio program on a weekly basis, as we are the home of the Blazers in Eugene on Fox Sports. Donovan Clingan on the offensive glass ranks 2nd in the NBA, also among the best in the league in offensive rebounds per 36 minutes. As a rookie last year, he led the entire NBA, currently 2nd in offensive rebounds per game. And so talk about how, and we've talked a lot about this, his maturation and how he is learning the intricacies and the nuance of playing that position against stiff competition.
Yeah, the rebounding is a skill, right? And just because you're 7 feet tall doesn't make you a good rebounder. Unfortunately, I'll never be able to relate to that. I can just go off of what I see. And there are a lot of guys who are 6'10", 6'11", who are not great rebounders. Donovan Clingan is phenomenal. And you mentioned that he's 2nd in those offensive rebounding numbers. The guy who's 1st is Steven Adams. Steven Adams is a beast. He's one of the most physical players in this era of basketball. And to see those two go up against each other in Houston was terrific. DC doesn't back down against anybody. He's 7'2", 280, and the effort that he makes and the way that he rebounds and tips the ball to himself or tips things out, he has a nose for the ball, and he knows where to go. And a lot of his points are second chance points, and giving his teams the opportunity to get those second chance points for a team that's not a great shooting team. I mean, overall, if you take all of the shots this team takes, that's including the shots at the rim and everything, they're in the bottom 5 in the league in field goal percentage. So he has a lot of opportunities to get second chance points and to get those offensive rebounds. And he's taking advantage of them. And his ability, not just with his height, but positioning and knowing where to be, it really is a game changer for him and for this team, because without those offensive rebounds and without those second chance points, this team is not where they are in terms of scoring. He's really been an important player in that regard. And his three-point shooting, he's taking more threes than he ever has in his life, and he had a really rough stretch. But over his last 6 games, I think he's around 38% from 3.
Yeah.
And if that continues to increase, it's just another added layer of what he can do.
And so the Blazers tonight get an opportunity to advance out of the group of death West Group Cup C, or Group C, I should say.
Group
Come on, I mean, it's the Nuggets and the Spurs, the Rockets, the Warriors.
That's what's being called. Yeah,
I know. Yeah,
it's the Group of Death. So they have an opportunity to do that, but I'm just not sure about the NBA Cup. I get the idea. I know they want to do sort of the European soccer model of always playing for something, but what do you think about it, Travis? Is this working?
My first thought when they brought this up is this is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. What are we doing here?
Yeah.
And it was designed for TV and for ratings and for getting appointment viewing and getting people to watch. The casual viewer doesn't pay attention to the NBA until Christmas a lot of times, right? Or MLK Day, and those are the two big benchmark days for the NBA. Well, now the NFL's got Christmas Day games.
Mm-hmm.
They're trying to steal the thunder, and they've got games all day on Christmas. So the NBA wanted to put something in there that mattered and was trying to give people a reason to watch. And this is only the third year of it, and I think it'll take some time for people to get on board. But I'm on board with it for a couple of reasons, because now tonight, November 26th?
Yep.
Wednesday, I think.
Yeah.
The Blazers actually have something important to play for tonight. And for a team like this that has not had a whole lot to play for in the last few years, in November to have a game that matters, it's something that's really cool. And, yeah, you've got the different courts and all of that, and that's fun, but it's just another storyline. It's just another something to pay attention to when the NBA season and the regular season can get really monotonous, And I do think it's cool. And the opportunity to go to Vegas and all of that. And, yeah, there's some confusion with the schedule, and because the American fan is not necessarily used to something like this, it can be confusing. But I think it's fun, and I think it's cool. And for the players, there is a financial gain here. So they will be motivated. Mm-hmm. The teams that make the quarterfinals, everybody who gets to the quarterfinals and loses that round, every player gets $50,000. It might not seem like a lot to everybody, but to some guys, yeah, exactly, yeah. And then the winning team gets $500,000 for each player.
Yeah. Wow.
The losing team in the championship gets, I think it's like $230,000. And you think about some of these two-way players, right? Like Caleb Love.
Exactly, yeah.
I don't know I think he's getting like $200-something grand for the year for being a two-way player.
Doubles what he makes.
If they win, he's going to double his salary for the year in one night.
That's crazy.
He's going to be playing this game tonight like it's Game 7 of the finals.
Yeah.
So it adds another layer for those guys. So all of those things together, I am in favor of it. I think it's fun. I hope it continues. And it's just another thing to pay attention to that's pretty cool.
All right, Mayor, 30 seconds. Where do you land on turkey versus Cornish game hen for Thanksgiving?
It's Thanksgiving. You eat turkey on Thanksgiving.
Thank you.
Cornish game hen's cool, but give me that for dinner on at a fancy restaurant on a Friday sometime. Turkey, even if you don't like turkey and you think turkey's dry and boring, it's Thanksgiving. There's plenty of other stuff to eat. Have the damn turkey for the protein and gorge yourself on the other stuff.
Attaboy. Mayor, have a great call tonight. We'll be listening as always. We love having you on the program. Happy Thanksgiving to you and yours.
Pleasure's mine, guys. Happy Thanksgiving. We'll talk soon.
All right, there he goes. The great mayor of Rip City. It's Travis Demers. When we come back, Dick Fain from KJR. He is the calm, the reasonable voice in the room with him and Softy. Dave Softy Mahler is a psycho.
But say not much of a comparison.
No, he's a psycho. We get the calm side of Softy and Dick from KJR. The Washington perspective of Hate Week. The Ducks and the Huskies next on Danny and Justin. Always good catching up with the mayor, Travis Demers. Talk about the Blazers. Love that little Thanksgiving take as well from Travis as we get ready for Turkey Day tomorrow. But then after that, we're going to be diving right back into the leftovers and Oregon and Washington and the renewal of that rivalry now in the Big Ten up at Husky Stadium. We're very happy. First-time guest on the program. He is the co-host of the Softy and Dick Show on KJR up there in the Seattle market. It's Dick Fain joining us. Mr. Fain, first of all, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
So, secondly, are you like the calm voice when Softy starts going crazy up there?
Yeah, I mean, every lunatic needs the foil, and so yes, I'm usually the foil for the 2 or 3 times a day where he'll go completely off his rocker, and I just kind of have to pick up the pieces and put it back together.
God bless you. 29th year on the air up there, KJR, play-by-play voice as well, the Seattle Storm. It's Dick Fain joining us. You can follow him on Twitter, also on the old Instagram, Dick Fain, Fain. So I think it's fair to say, and for our fan base down here in the Willamette Valley and up there in Seattle, that when you take a look at like in-state rivals, for you it's Washington State, for Oregon it's Oregon State, that this matchup brings much more vitriol between the fan bases than the in-state rivals. I mean, are you hearing that up there as well? Like, you cannot lose to Oregon to make your season if you're a Husky.
Oh, no question. And it's only gotten greater over the last 10 years or so because, I mean, when I was growing up, it wasn't really a rivalry because Washington dominated Oregon. And then for about a 10 to 15-year stretch, it wasn't a rivalry because Oregon dominated Washington. But what it's become is finally what it should be, right? And it's 2 teams that are commonly in at least the top 25, if not the college football playoff discussion. And that's where the rivalry has really just taken root. Is really over the last 10 years, we've had so many great games, so many down-to-the-wire games. Some Oregon has won, some Washington has won. And now with Oregon State and Washington State moving to the Pac-12, that just further kind of pushes that rivalry down and elevates this one even more.
And to me, the things that stood out about these games, really high levels of football. I mean, you're watching really players that are going to be playing on Sundays, Heisman candidates a lot of the time. Do you think that this is the type of rivalry where even if the teams on paper aren't quite matching up, that it kind of just evens things out just due to the nature of the rivalry?
I think so. I mean, I think home field has a big part of that as well. I mean, there's been games, I think Oregon was probably the more talented team 2 years ago, but they had to face Washington and Washington, and the Huskies got that win. Now the Huskies doubled down and won on the neutral site in the Pac-12 championship game, which may refute a little bit the talent edge that Oregon has. I don't know how you can say you're a better team if you lost twice in 1 year to a team. But I think the same thing could be said with the Peyton Henry field goal down at Autzen 5 or 6 years ago. I think Washington was a better football team that year, but it's at Autzen. It goes down to a field goal, and the Huskies lose that game on a field goal. So, yeah, I think that and I think we have a situation here where Oregon probably has more talent. If this was a game at Autzen, I would say it's probably a 2-touchdown victory for Oregon, but Washington has been a completely different team at home than they've been on the road, not just this year, but really under Jed Fish. I mean, you look at this Husky team since the Jimmy Lake era back in 2021, they've only lost 1 football game at Husky Stadium, and that was to the number 1 team in the nation, Ohio State, this year in a game that was still a 1-score game late into the third quarter. So this is a very good home football team.
The 2 national powers will clash up there just off of Lake Washington. The 118th meeting between the Ducks and the Huskies, the 2025 rivalry that has been on the side of Washington the last couple of years. So let's talk about that as we're with Dick Fain from KJR, play-by-play voice of the Seattle Storm, husband to Jana and father to Dixon and Aubrey, joining us here on the Oregon Man Clinic's hotline. So Alaska Airlines Field hosting this game. And I want to start on the defensive side for the Huskies because I think it's being overlooked. And for this team and this squad, Oregon comes in with a high-powered offense. They know they can run, they can throw, depending on what you're going to try and take away from them or depending on health for Oregon. But talk from your perspective how the Husky defense has improved and has stayed at a high level during this season.
Yeah, I think you nailed it. I mean, I don't think there's any question the better side of the football for the Huskies is the defense, which is strange because going into the season, all anybody was talking about was the 3-headed monster of Damon Williams, Jonah Coleman, and Denzel Boston. And those guys have been either injured at times, Denzel, Jonah Coleman, or they've been erratic in Damon Williams. All 3 have shown ability to be superstars. All 3 have shown the ability to be top 2 at the very worst 3 round draft picks in the NFL. but there hasn't been consistency. There hasn't been consistency in DeMond Williams' play away from Husky Stadium, and there hasn't been consistency in the health of Jonah Coleman and Denzel Boston. There has been consistency in this defense. I mean, this defense has only given up 25 points one time in a game, and that was in a blowout win over Illinois. And, I mean, they held Ohio State to 24 points. They held Michigan to 24 points. I mean, that's why I really think that this game is going to be a lower scoring game. This is not going to be the type of shootout where you can just show up like you did last week and put up 21 points in the first quarter and, the first 20 minutes of the game against USC, because this coaching staff cares about defense, unlike the coaching staff that you just faced in USC that just tries to go out and outscore you all the time, and it doesn't matter if they give up 35 points. That's not what this Husky defense is. They have been very, very solid, and it's really kind of a no-name defense. Alex McLaughlin will probably get all Big Ten honors. He has deserved it at that strong safety position, but I don't know if there's anybody else really that you look at and say, that's a top 2-round draft pick. That's a first-team All-Big Ten guy. I don't think there is, but what there is there's no weakness really in this defense. It's just kind of rock solid all the way across the board.
What do you think the focus of the defense is going to be against Oregon? Oregon's been so good running the ball all season long. It feels like their run kind of sets up their pass. Is it going to be the kind of thing they're going to have to take away the run for the Ducks? Do you think they can do that?
I think so. I don't think they're going to completely shut down Oregon's running game. I don't think Oregon's going to completely shut down Washington's running game, particularly if Jonah Coleman is close to 100%. But I don't see a lot of breakaway runs on either team. I just think both defenses, the Oregon defense is extremely fast. I was really impressed by watching how speedy that defense is. They close out gaps. Washington's defense probably isn't as fast as Oregon's, but they're just always in their gaps. They're just always in the right place, and they don't miss tackles. And so I think that's why I like the under in this football game, guys. I just don't think there's going to be a lot of big plays downfield, which might seem odd when you just watch that Oregon-USC game where there was just big plays like every 3 minutes in that football game. I just think we're going to see a completely different style of game on Saturday.
The reasonable, calm voice of Softy and Dick on KJR joining us. It's Dick Fain on the Danny and Justin radio program. These two teams started playing in 1900. That's crazy how long ago that's been, but they will face again at Husky Stadium on Saturday with a lot on the line for Oregon and a lot on the line for Washington in terms of how they can move themselves up into the rankings. So we talked a little bit about Oregon's offense against Washington's defense. Let's talk about DeMond Williams Jr., the Husky quarterback. He is currently number 2 among active SBS quarterbacks, career pass efficiency, a mark of 168, which would rank 14 in FBS history. And he's currently number 6 in completion percentage, number 7 in pass efficiency. You can see where I'm going. But it's been kind of like an up and down, like a yo-yo with him this season. So what's your take on how he is going to try and impact this game against an Oregon defense, which you said swarms around?
Yeah, I think just consistency is the word that DeMond Williams needs to incorporate into his game. He's got all the talent in the world. For Oregon fans that may have not seen a lot of DeMond Williams or just remember last year. I mean, last year was kind of an unfair game for Washington. DeMond Williams just thrown to the wolves with a totally rebuilt offensive line. I mean, you can completely throw out that game in Austin. That was a Husky team that was stripped to the bare bones by Kalen DeBoer when he went to Alabama, and it was kind of a miracle that Jed Fish even got them to a bowl game last year with that football team. But DeMond Williams, the best comparison is Kyler Murray.
Okay.
And he's going to give you everything cool that Kyler Murray gives you. Every wow play that you saw Kyler Murray make in college, and particularly over the first 3 or 4 years of his pro career when we still thought Kyler Murray was going to be a star quarterback. He gives you all of that. He gives it with his legs. He gives it with his arm on the run. I mean, there's a lot of wow in DeMond Williams' game, but there's also a lot of times when he holds onto the ball, he takes sacks, he'll cough it up, he'll get blindside hit, he'll fumble the football. And so there's just the consistency piece. And I think the one thing that even Husky fans forget is when DeMond Williams has a bad game, which he has had a couple of times this year. He had a terrible game against Michigan, no touchdowns, 3 interceptions, did not do anything against Ohio State, had no touchdowns, 173 yards passing. what we forget is Damon Williams is 19 years of age.
Wow.
And we kind of forget that because we're like, well, wait a second. Wasn't he a transfer from Arizona? And didn't he play last year? Well, yeah, but he was a high school recruit that transferred from Arizona, not a player for Arizona. So, and he was a young high school. He graduated from high school at 17 years of age, played last year, started the last few games for Washington, including that Oregon game at 18 years of age. And now here he is at 19 years of age. And so I think that's why Husky fans are so excited for next season when basically this entire team is back. And this is a team that, in my opinion, had they not just completely bafflingly lost at Wisconsin, they would be playing for a berth in the college football playoffs because they were already 24th in the nation.
Agreed.
If they beat Wisconsin, they would have been like 20th or 21st.
Yeah.
Then they rattle off 2 wins in a row. They'd be up to 15th or 16th this week, and then a win over Oregon would have propelled them into the top 12. A Big Ten team with 2 losses, I think, clearly is in the college football playoff. That's what that loss at Wisconsin did. So Damon Williams is just going to be a guy that he's going to have to be good Damon. And he has usually in this stadium been good Damon. He has usually been erratic Damon when he goes away from Husky Stadium.
And Washington was just, I feel like, kind of criminally underranked all season
Absolutely.
long. Even before
We talked
that
about
loss.
it.
Like,
Yep.
we were kind of like, hey, like, why isn't this team ranked? Like, they were that team. And Damon, I mean, he certainly made an impression, I would say, when he came to Autzen Stadium last year. I mean, that first play, he throws it 50 yards down the field. He's clearly got speed. You kind of already talked about it. But Yuri also mentioned Denzel Boston. That guy's really, really good. We saw Oregon and their pass defense against probably their biggest test of the season last week against USC. They had some good moments. They had some moments that didn't look so good. Do you think that Denzel Boston can kind of replicate some of the things that USC was able to do?
Yeah, I'm just hoping that Denzel Boston was left out of last week's game for more precautionary reasons than anything else. He only played 3 snaps in that game, did not get a target. He was injured a couple of weeks ago. If Denzel Boston is at close to 100% or 100%, and then absolutely, he will get free. I mean, I talked about this game being, kind of devoid of some big plays. I think that's particularly in the running game. I think some big plays can be had in the passing game, and Denzel Boston is going to be public enemy number 1 for the Oregon secondary. I just don't know how healthy Denzel Boston is, but he is explosive. He had 153 yards against Illinois just a few weeks back. I mean, he is a guy that is clearly a top 2-round draft pick in the NFL draft. I think the injuries this year and a bit of the lack of production, with only 52 catches for 730 yards, I think it might actually be a blessing in disguise for Washington and that he might come back next year, whereas I think at the beginning of the season, we just all assumed this was going to be the last year for Denzel Boston at Washington.
Washington 8-3 overall, 5-3 in the Big Ten, closes out the regular season against Oregon 10-1 overall, 7-1 in the Big Ten. 12:30 kick on CBS. 118th meeting between the Huskies and the Ducks. The last year's game that Dick Fain, who's joining us on the Oregon Man Clinics hotline, mentioned broke the 3-game win streak in the series that UW won twice, once in Seattle and then in the Pac-12 championship game. Remember the Pac-12? Also a thriller in Eugene in 2022. So let's move to Washington. Goes into the weekend 4th in the nation in third down efficiency. And third down is a huge down for Oregon trying to get off the field. They've been able to do it a lot of times. So I want to kind of microscope it down to that. How important do you think that's going to be for Washington to call the right play and to keep extending drives against Oregon and stay away from 3-and-outs?
Yeah, I think it's going to be on the legs of Jonah Coleman and Damon Williams. I think we see a little more of the zone read for Damon Williams, keeping the football, running around the edge. I think a lot of Oregon's defense is going to be keyed in on number 1, Jonah Coleman, which they should be. And Jonah's had an up and down season, not the dominant season he had last year, but I think that was mainly injury related. So that's going to be a 1-2 punch that Washington is going to be using on 3rd and short and 4th and short. I'm interested to see how aggressive these two coaches are going to be on 4th down. I mean, it has cost Dan Lanning in the past against Washington with his tendencies to go for it on 4th down and not make it on 4th down. I think it probably cost them a berth in the college football playoffs and a Pac-12 championship 2 years ago because Dan Lanning was so aggressive. And I've yet to see, honestly, I mentioned this on the air yesterday, and this is not a shot at Oregon because I'm kind of taking the same shot at Washington. I've yet to see either one of these coaches, like, end a football game where I was like, dang, Dan Lanning or Jed Fish just outcoached the opposition. I mean, they're great recruiters. They're great program builders. They're great and all that, but like, I don't know. Have you seen Dan Lanning where you're just like, man, that was a mastermind coaching game by Dan Lanning? Because I haven't seen it, and I haven't seen it from Jed Fish either. I haven't seen a close game that Washington's won where I just look at it and say, hey, Jed Fish won that game for Washington.
Do you want me to do the softy response, or do you want me to do what keeps me having a job down here?
You can do both. You can or what? You're not allowed to rip Dan Lanning?
No. Listen, we've been very impressed by what we've seen on game management. And listen, I challenged anybody on the air the other day. You tell me if you take the top 3 receivers out of your offense. You tell me if you take 2 or 3 starting offensive linemen out of your offense and you still score 42 points against USC, or any other game where you had to adjust everything against Wisconsin in horrible weather conditions, on the road against Iowa, arguably one of the best lines in the country. So honestly, I would say I've been pretty impressed on how Dan Lanning's been able to adjust with his personnel. I know Justin wants to jump in here as well. Adjust his personnel to face what the opponent might be throwing at them. So I would say I would give him marks for that.
And
so good.
I would say that he has certainly been an aggressive coach, which is,
sometimes it's a double-edged sword.
Sometimes it's bad. The one game I would say maybe you could give him some credit for is the Ohio State game last year. There was a couple. I mean, you want to call I don't know if he gets how much credit he gets for the 12 men on the field thing where that was that penalty.
And then they made a new rule after that.
Yeah, exactly.
Right,
I think that was a pretty good move. But also, you got to think about at halftime, they did the onside kick. I think that was probably a decision he made. I know that was probably a look that they had as well. But maybe if you were going to point to one game, I'd say that that Ohio State game, I think a couple of his decisions really did play into factor in winning that game.
But we understand what you're saying, Dick. And,
Totally.
I mean, it's not like an overwhelming. You're right. Not sitting back and saying, "Wow, they really outcoached those other guys." I think it's been kind of with the injury situation Oregon's been facing. It's like win and survive and get to the next week, especially because they got gut punched and they got beat hard by Indiana. We said it all the way. There were no excuses. Indiana was the much better team that day. They executed everything they wanted to do, and they took Oregon out behind the woodshed. At Autzen Stadium, which is a tough place to do it. First time they had been out there for a long time. So I see what you're saying, though, and I agree with you in some respects on that. So I want to flip this, and we only have a couple more minutes with you. So the whole off-the-field stuff with Jed Fish, is it still a chatter up there? Because once the UCLA job opened up, once all these other premier jobs open up, and I think one of them already closed down, Arkansas, they hired their coach today. So all this chatter and, his family not living there and all that, is that a distraction? Are the fans, are your callers talking about this?
Oh, yeah, it's a huge topic. It's been a huge topic since day one of Jed Fish's tenure here, because all you got to do is look at his resume and realize he hasn't stayed any place over 2 to 3 years.
Right.
So, I mean, that's been a talking point forever. Florida has always been the kind of the school that was circled, and Florida is now looking for a head coach. So, I think, we even brought it up on the show yesterday. Softy asked me the question and asked the listeners the question, like, would you trade a win against Oregon on Saturday if it meant Jed Fish left for Florida? and honestly, the answer was yes.
Oh, my God. You serious?
I hemmed and hawed because I do think, and the only reason I hemmed and hawed about it was I do think Washington is a legitimate college football playoff contender next year.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's happening if Jed Fish leaves, because he's taken DeMond Williams, he's taken Denzel Boston.
He's going to do the same thing DeBoer did. He's going to strip the cupboard.
Exactly. But we did have John Wilner on yesterday, and he mentioned something interesting. He said, well, even if that were to happen, he says he thinks Washington can rebuild quicker now than they could a couple of years ago, because they've gone through it. They have the battle. They have the war chest of money. They can just go buy a team. We don't have Uncle Phil, but we do have, Amazon and Costco and Starbucks and Microsoft, and we got a few places we can go to for money too.
Dick Fain, at Dick Fain, Fain, on both the Twitterverse and IG. He's the voice of the Seattle Storm, and he is one half of Softy and Dick on KJR, the Washington Perspective. Thanksgiving coming up. What is your favorite Thanksgiving dish that is made, that is presented to you?
That's an easy one for me.
Okay.
The one I continue to go back for seconds on is the mashed potatoes and gravy. It's got to be whipped. I mean, I want no clumps. There can't be any clumps in the potatoes. There cannot be any clumps in the gravy. There's got to be nothing but smooth whipped potatoes, gravy that you just pour all over it, kind of medium thickness, maybe with some turkey chunks in the gravy.
Yeah,
that's
giblet
always
gravy.
that's always a bonus.
Yeah.
So I'm not a huge just like cut up turkey fan. Like I'll have my 2 or 3 pieces, but I will go back for the carbs. There is no question about it.
All right. So by the way, and I learned this a couple of years ago. So I don't use russets anymore in my mash. I use Yukon. Yukon Gold potatoes are the best for doing. And Justin's going to experience this tomorrow because he's coming over to my house for Thanksgiving. So the Yukon Gold, I do put a little garlic in it. I do 4 different cheeses, sour cream, not a lot of butter, touch of milk, and bacon as well.
Text me your address, man. I might make the 4 hours.
Dick, a pleasure, man. And we're going to have you back on because we're big WNBA fans here. And obviously the friendly voice there in Seattle is always welcome here on the Danny and Justin radio program.
Appreciate it. I'm excited to go down, do a road game or 2 down in Portland this year. It's great that you guys got a team down there. And I think that's an absolute no-brainer for Portland to have a WNBA team. I mean, women's sports is appreciated in the state of Oregon, just like it is in the state of Washington. Very, very cool.
All right. Well, look forward to hooking up again, Dick. Thank you very much for the time, buddy. And happy Thanksgiving. All right.
You too. See ya.
See ya. There he goes, the great Dick Fain from KJR. I don't know if we could. So Canzano, you said, had a softy rant the other day?
Yeah, yesterday.
Yesterday?
Yeah.
God bless
I think
Dick.
it was that kick.
God bless Dick Fain for maintaining the level of calmness in that studio with Softy. All right, we come back. We'll put a wrap on the program here as we get ready for Turkey Day here on the Danny and Justin radio program. Thanks once again to Dick Fain and the mayor of Rip City, Travis Demers. If you missed their interviews with us, go back to the pod, which will be up shortly. Danny and Justin, wherever you podcast, the fastest 60 minutes, you can find us wherever you are when you do your pods. Despite shooting almost 43% from 3, Oregon men's basketball dropped their second straight game in Las Vegas. They can't keep pace with San Diego State. They fall by 17 yesterday afternoon or evening, 97-80. Jackson Shellstat has 21 points. Nate Biddle has 13. But the Ducks dropped to 4-2. Dana Altman was not happy. Dana Altman was not even appearing in the postgame.
Now I'm just miserable.
He was. He didn't appear in the postgame show. So Oregon plays Creighton tomorrow at 11 a.m. at Michelob Ultra Arena. They're not going to be able to play in the semifinals or the championship game of the Players Era. So not going to get that big check. A better game in terms of shooting, but they did not play defense. They almost scored 100 points, San Diego
Has
State.
Dana Altman played Creighton yet?
I think I go back and look. Let's do that we'll do it for Friday because we'll talk about it
Right.
on Friday. We're off tomorrow.
Obviously,
But
the former coach at Creighton.
I think he has.
I want to say he has,
I
too,
think he has.
but I'm not 100% sure.
Okay, so
I know that he hasn't wanted to play them. I know that's sort of a thing.
That's me. I should have done the production meeting. So let's do dad joke.
Oh, a joke!
I got fired from the bank today. A woman asked me to check her balance, so I pushed her.
Dad jokes!
All right, a Thanksgiving dad joke.
Love it.
Why can't a turkey get a base hit?
Oh,
Why can't a turkey get a base hit?
I don't know.
Because they only can hit foul balls.
Yes. A flowl. Fly ball, flowl.
Foul balls. All right, kids. I hope everyone has a great Thanksgiving. And I hope you get to spend it with people that you love. I'm going to get to spend it with people I love. And then we will be back right here on Friday. Goose will be in the studio. Mama Kay will be in the studio. Woohoo!
Yeah.
I get to meet Justin's mom.
We're excited.
We're all going to be here on Friday. Hope you are as well. We'll do Big Bet, your chance to win a couple of nights at Coquel Casino. The guys did well this past weekend. Your chance to win on Friday. Pleasant Thanksgiving. Thanks for listening and supporting. God bless. Be well. Put a smile on your face. Someone else's. They deserve it. So do you. For Baby J, I'm Danny.